Look at yourself for a second, purely as an animal, and be honest about it. No claws worth the name. Fingernails, which are essentially decorative. No fangs either. A set of flat teeth entirely adequate for bread. No armor, no horns, venom, no shell, and nothing anywhere that stings. You cannot outrun almost anything at all over a short distance. You cannot climb well. You cannot swim well. And you are visible from a long way off, and you sleep unconscious on the ground for roughly a third of every single day. By any reasonable measure, you are a soft, slow, unarmed package of meat. Now walk into a forest in almost any part of the world, and almost nothing at all comes for you. The bear leaves the area. The big cat leaves. The wolf leaves before you ever see it. Animals that can kill you without effort simply decline to be there. That is not politeness on their part, and it is not luck on yours. It is fear, and it is measurable, and somebody measured it. So this video is about how frightening a human being actually is, how much more frightening we are than a bear, and what that fear is quietly doing to the world right now, more or less everywhere. Start in a wood in southern England with badgers. A badger is a very reasonable animal to test this on, and the reason is historical. Britain used to have both bears and wolves. It has not had either for centuries. So a modern British badger has no living memory of a large carnivore anywhere. No badger alive has ever met a wolf. None of their parents did either, which makes them an unusually clean test of what an animal fears and why. A team led by Michael Clinchy and Liana Zanet set up an experiment. They found badger sets, and they put out food, and then they put out loudspeakers. Then they waited for the badgers to come out and feed, and they played sounds at them. 4 kinds of sound, and this is the important part. Bears growling, wolves howling, dogs barking, and ordinary people talking, not shouting, not gunfire, just the ordinary volume of human conversation. The bear and wolf sounds are predators the badgers have never encountered. Dogs are a predator they meet constantly, and human voices are, on the face of it, the least threatening sound on that list. So the expectation is fairly obvious. Bears and wolves should be frightening. Dogs should be frightening too. People chatting should barely register at all. That is not even close to what actually happened. Human voices produced the strongest response of anything they played, not slightly more. The badgers were more afraid of people talking than of bears. They took by far the longest to come out and start feeding after hearing us. And at 4 of the 7 sets, the badgers did not come out at all until the human playback had completely finished. They waited us out entirely. They sat underground and waited for the voices to stop. Bears did not do that. Wolves did not do that. Dogs did not do that. An animal that has never in its life met a bear was less frightened of a bear than of 2 people having a conversation. Now, one experiment on one species in one wood is not a rule about anything. So the same approach was taken somewhere with an actual large predator. The Santa Cruz Mountains in California have pumas living in them, mountain lions. An animal that weighs about as much as a person and is built entirely for killing. A team including Justine Smith and Christopher Wilmers had collared pumas there, which meant they could find the exact spot where a puma had made a kill. That matters, because a kill site is the place an animal is least likely to leave. It has done the hard part. The food is there. It is guarding it. They set up loudspeakers near active puma kill sites, and then they waited. Then, while the puma was feeding, they played it a recording, either frogs calling as a control or the sound of people talking quietly. The frogs did essentially nothing at all to them. When the pumas heard human voices, they fled the kill in most cases, and they were far slower to come back to it afterwards. Across the whole study, hearing us cut their feeding time at that kill substantially. So a large carnivore, sitting at its own food, abandons it because it hears talking, which raises the obvious question: how far does this go? And the answer came from an experiment that is genuinely strange in its scale. Rather than testing one animal at one site, Justin Sirachi and colleagues went out and wired up an entire landscape with loudspeakers. They installed loudspeaker systems across a large area of those same mountains and alternated for months between human voices and a control sound, then watched what the whole community of animals did in response. Not one species. All of them at once, from mountain lions right down to mice. The mountain lions avoided the areas where humans could be heard, and when they did move through, they moved more cautiously. The medium-sized carnivores below them, things like bobcats and skunks, became harder to detect and spent less time out foraging. And here is where it stops being a behavior study and becomes an ecological event. Because when the mid-sized predators hide, the small animals below them relax. Mouse activity in exactly those areas measurably went up. So the sound of a human voice, played into a forest, pushed the top predator out, made the middle predators hide, and it let the smallest animals of all move around far more freely. An entire food web rearranged itself, and nobody was actually there. No hunting. No people. Just the recorded sound of us existing nearby. That effect has a name. It is called a landscape of fear. The idea is that a predator does not only affect its prey by actually eating it, it changes where prey will go when it will feed, and how relaxed it is able to be. And those effects can be larger than the killing itself, because they apply to every animal, all the time, not just the ones caught. What these experiments show is that humans now generate that effect more strongly than any other animal in the systems tested. So the question stops being whether predators fear us and starts being why. And the answer is not that we are frightening to look at. It is arithmetic, and it is fairly grim arithmetic at that. A study led by Chris Darramont looked at how human predation actually compares with predation by other carnivores across a very large number of species, indeed. And it found something that separates us from every other predator on Earth. Almost all predators concentrate on the young, the old, and the weak. That is not squeamishness on their part. It is simple efficiency. A wolf attacking a healthy adult elk is risking serious injury for one meal, and an injured wolf does not eat at all. So the calculation says, take the easy target, which means most predators barely touch the adult breeding population. They take the animals that were least likely to reproduce anyway. Humans do the opposite. We target the adults, and specifically the big ones. That study estimated humans exploit adult prey at many times the rate other predators do, in some comparisons by more than an entire order of magnitude. And it is worth being clear about why that is, because it is not aggression. It is that we can. We kill at a distance, so the risk of injury mostly vanishes. A thrown spear does not care how healthy the animal is, which removes the entire reason other predators avoid strong, healthy adults. So from the animal's point of view, we are a genuinely new kind of thing entirely. A predator with no preference for weakness. Being strong does not protect you. Being an adult in your prime does not protect you either. It makes you a target. That is what is behind the fear, not our teeth, our arithmetic. So when did animals learn all this? Because they very clearly did learn it. And this is the part where the honest answer is that we do not fully know yet. Some of it is recent and learned within living animal generations. Populations that are hunted are measurably warier than populations that are not. But the badger result suggests something older is going on as well. Because those badgers were reacting to a sound, their species has been meeting for very much longer than any one of them has been alive. And there is a reasonable case that this goes back a very long way. Humans have been hunting with projectiles for hundreds of thousands of years. We have used fire to move animals around the landscape for a comparable stretch. We hunt in coordinated groups, which almost no other predator does at our scale. Every one of those makes us harder to defend against than anything else out there. So the fear may be partly ancient and partly learned, and the balance is argued. What is not argued is that it is there, and that it is unusually strong. Now, for the part of this that is genuinely uncomfortable to sit with. This fear is doing an enormous amount of work in the world right now. Every road, every trail, and every house at the edge of every forest is generating a version of that playback experiment continuously, day and night. Animals are shifting their activity into the night to avoid us. They are feeding less, moving less, and using less of their own habitat in places where nobody is hunting them or has hunted them at all. A lot of what we record as animals declining near people may not be about habitat being destroyed or food running out. It may be about them being too frightened to use the space they still have left, which is a much harder problem because you cannot fence off a sound. So put it all back together and look at what you actually are. You are, physically, the least impressive large animal anywhere in that forest. You would lose a straight fight with almost anything at all your own size. And you are also, measurably, the most frightening thing in it. More frightening to a badger than the bears its ancestors evolved alongside. Frightening enough to move a mountain lion off a kill it has already made. Frightening enough that your recorded voice, alone in an empty wood, reorganizes which animals feed, and when, all the way down to the mice. You did not earn that with your body. You earned it with distance and with numbers. And the strangest part is how completely invisible it is from the inside. You walk into a wood, you see nothing at all, and you conclude there is nothing there. There is, in fact, a very great deal there. It heard you a long time before you arrived, and it made a decision about you. And the decision was to be somewhere else.